What's up? I'm here with Miquella and Aaron. These are good friends of mine in the real estate world. They came up from Temecula. We are going to shoot a little podcast, shoot the shit here about real estate, deals, and really get to know their business a little bit more. So stay tuned for this one.
My name is Aaron Gaunt. I'm a pretty nice wholesale company. We have a wholesale company in Southern California here. I brought my wife, my beautiful wife with me, who's also my business partner. What's up, Miquella?
Introduce yourself, Miquella.
Well, I'm Miquella Gaunt, and I'm just his better half.
Nice. You definitely his better half. I know.
She is. She is.
Question. So did you grow up in California or no?
Yeah.
Did you?
I grew up in Temecula.
Oh, okay. So you're in your backyard. And you did not. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in the Bay Area, a little town called Antioch, California.
Okay, so up north. So you're from NorCal.
NorCal.
So how's the NorCal SoCal vibe? Man, I've heard the clash. How's that work in the house?
Well, there's no clash in the house because I love
Just kidding, dude.
Southern California is actually, I love Southern California.
Yeah.
We're all about good times out here, and the weather's a lot more beautiful.
Yeah.
The vibe's better. Northern California is fantastic, but the only thing I like about Northern California is I got all my family's up there.
Got you. Yeah, I could see. She's got more tattoos than you. She's got rocking chucks. She knows SoCal, man. She's definitely more SoCal.
That's right. That
Kids have matching chucks with
Oh, heck yeah. So exactly. Like, what are we going to wear? Vans or chucks today, you know? Yeah.
I literally got a tattoo before I met you. I mean, so I could come down here as a qualifier.
Yeah, you do have to. That's a lot of times what it is. You have to send that in when you want to be on the podcast.
I got
to see proof. Talk from the beginning. So you were in prior military, so that's super cool. We have that in common. So talk a little bit about, when you got out of high school, joining the military. Let's start right there.
Awesome. I could tell you a little bit about my backstory, and I think we're here obviously because of business. Do you want me to talk to you a little bit about my backstory and what got me into business?
I want to know who you are. I want to know more about, you were talking about being in the Navy, but that's a pretty cool experience that some people haven't had, right?
Yeah.
So what'd you do? Talk about
Absolutely, man. So I grew up in what some people would call the hood. I know I'm a tall white guy looking like I'm from Texas, but I'm actually from Northern California in a town called Antioch. And, my mom, normal kind of millennial side, right? Dad wasn't really involved. Mom did the best she could, living on Section 8 welfare. And yeah, I didn't have any really big aspirations. I just wanted to get through high school. About my senior year, I said, actually learning's pretty cool. So I wanted to go to college. Realized I had no money for college. So I tried to go do college and didn't really pan out. I had somebody say, hey, I actually had a buddy of mine. He joined the military, joined the Navy specifically. And that's the only reason I went into the Navy, because my buddy did. We were out drinking. We were 19 years old. We were drinking in my garage. And he was like, yeah, I just joined the recruiter, da-da-da. And he's like, I just gave your number too. And so I had a recruiter call me the following week. And he said, hey, come in the office. We do college because it's what I wanted to do. We said we give college, right? So yeah, went to the recruiter's office, took the test, went to MEPS. Probably about a year later, went off and joined the military. I joined as a firefighter, crash crewman on a ship. So obviously through boot camp training, already got to see some of the United States. Got stationed in San Diego. Beautiful first station.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt.
Dude, I used to run. I used to hang out in Coronado. I used to run the beach all the time.
Not a bad place to be at 19, 20 years old,
Yep. So I did 3 Westpac tours. What that is basically a ship goes out for 6 to 8 months, all around Asian ports. We did a bunch of things while I was in the service. I know you did a good tour in Iraq.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I didn't have to see any battle, but we were outside of Iraq, and we launched a bunch of ships. So
yeah, that's cool.
So for my job, I was on the flight deck carrier, sitting in crash crew trucks, in case any aircraft caught on fire or anything like that. So we did a lot of training. So again, we were right outside of Iraq, just launching jets all day.
That's cool.
I slept under the jets in our berthing. So it was pretty cool. We got to see a bunch of Asian ports. Another cool thing, we didn't just do that, but we also, I remember we responded to Haiti. So we did a lot of humanitarian work, when that had that big earthquake. So we did that. I got to tell my story. I was on the carrier when Osama bin Laden, was shot
wasted.
Up. Yeah. Got wasted, right?
Yeah.
That was a ship that I was on where we did a burial at sea. So he was buried on elevator.
You were on that? Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah. So it was just a normal day in the middle, Middle East, outside of the Middle East.
Yeah.
And all the SEALs, they land. We had a chopper land on the flight deck and kicked us off the flight deck, and we had no idea what was going on at the time. And then they closed elevator number 2, so that left bay 3. They did a whole barrel at sea for somebody. We had no idea who it was. Our skipper said it was a special visitor, so we didn't know. And until later that evening, we saw on CNN in our berthing, we had cable on our ships. That we obviously everybody fought over channels for and all that stuff.
Yeah,
So,
of course.
But we had CNN on, and we saw literally headlines: Osama bin Laden barrel at sea on USS Carl Vinson, and we're like, hey, we're on.
We didn't even
we're on the
know.
ship.
Yeah, that's some OPSEC right there, man. That's some operation security.
So
right
the
there.
world knew before we did. But
sounds about like the military.
yep. But definitely, and then people used to always say like, hey, who was that true? Was it a true story? Did he really get buried and stuff? And I always say I didn't meet him in person, but it something definitely went down that day, you know. And I think it's just because his face got so messed up.
Yeah, I'm sure
that's why they didn't put him all over the the news. So
for sure, dang man. What year did you join?
I think it was like a little after 2008.
Okay.
So it was 2008 to 2016 is when I got out. So I did a full 8 years. So because after I did a bunch of Westpac tours in San Diego, then I got stationed in Italy. Oh, what a terrible location, right? So
Golly. So you went from San Diego to Italy, man.
yeah, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so we were in Europe, man, and I was a fireman down on the base there, and we just on my days off, I just go travel around Europe, man. Even by myself, I just go take a Ryanair flight, and it was always like €15, 15 euros to go travel around. So I got to see all of Europe, and then I got out in 2008. It was a total culture shock when I got back, but because I like got out from Italy to back to the
United States.
Yeah.
Just right out, boom.
Yep. And then I had all these firefighting qualifications after the military, so I kind of jumped right into DoD fire, and that's
makes sense.
That's where the military ended, man.
That's wild, awesome. So you go through DoD fire. How long did you get in?
So I got picked up in San Antonio, Texas. So I was there for like a year. Then I was like, man, I really want to go back to San Diego. Kind of like your story too. It's like, man, I got to get back to San Diego.
Yeah, I fell in love when I was out here.
Yeah, San Diego's amazing.
Yeah.
And so decided to go right back into. So anyways, I got picked up, put a job application into a base in Miramar, be a fireman on that base. And so, got picked up there. And so I was there for a couple of years.
Nice. And so while you were there, is that when you guys met?
That's a great question. So I still was not, I was a single guy still. I think I was like 28 or so. So I was a single guy still thinking like, hey, I'm going back to San Diego. I'm going to go live my early 20s again, right?
Sure. Like, it's a totally different time, but yeah, I got you.
So anyways, I meet a young lady, not my beautiful wife here, but a young lady. We dated for like 3 months. So I literally get back. I literally get hired in at Miramar. I meet a young lady and end up knocking her up. Unfortunately, Fortunately, unfortunately, right?
Fortunately, you have your child.
I have a beautiful young little girl. But anyways, she at the time said, so it was like 3 months in, didn't know her too much, you know.
Wow,
and
that's wild.
Long story short, she decided to say, hey, you're not going to be in her life, and so I immediately, while she was pregnant, I filed for custody.
Good for you.
The person, it was actually somebody at the fire department who told me, he's like, you should start the process now. Yeah. And it was the best decision I ever made because I was able to get way ahead of it. Because if I didn't do that, I don't know where I would be at. So she decided, so we had.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of this is off subject of us talking real estate, but I do want to make this point right now.
Yeah.
Because I have seen both ways go both ways. The dad be involved completely and all in, good people like yourself, and I have a few buddies like that. And then I've seen the opposite where people just ghost out and bow out of being a dad. What is your take on that situation? Obviously when
dads bail out.
Yeah. What?
I think we hold the same viewpoint as father to father. We think very low of those type of people.
100%. That's a nice way to put it. Yeah. It's the nicest way to put it.
And the funny thing is, I think we are as a generation breaking a generational thing because I think a lot of us millennials had fathers that weren't involved, right? I know you had a great relationship with your dad.
I do. I had a great family. I can't say that, but I saw a lot of people. I had a lot of buddies like yourself.
Yep. Myself, I have a lot of buddies that fathers weren't involved. I don't know what it was in the Kool-Aid back then, but yeah, they just weren't involved. And but now I see a lot of millennials having their kids, and they're like, my kids are everything.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I would do anything for them. So
For sure.
I think we're all seeing that nowadays.
It is. People got to step up. Guys got to step up. I mean, that's why we have a lot of issues we have now. So people like Aaron doing what's right. She just did something a minute ago while he was saying that. She was like nodding your head, but that's because you're proud of the man that made that decision. I mean, can you imagine getting into a relationship with him and him doing the opposite? I mean, what a red flag, in my opinion.
When we had met and started dating, his daughter was only 2 months old at the time, and so I came right in the middle of the fight, but I saw the passion that he had, and it showed me like a future of like, hey, this is a man that if we have kids, he's gonna be there.
Exactly.
And so
you get to reread the book. You get to pre-read the book. You know what I mean?
Right. So it made it. People always ask me like, why would you jump into something like that? Because that seems a little messy, and it's been chaotic, but
Sure.
Everything's been worth it. But at the same time, it was easy to do it because of how hard he was fighting.
Yeah.
So
that
it
makes
made
sense.
it easy for me to join in the fight and help with the fight because he was. It wasn't like I was like, oh, go fight for her, and he didn't really care. We were doing it together.
That's awesome. Do you think that drew you guys closer?
Oh yeah.
For sure. Yeah, if you're willing to do it and he sees that and then vice versa, I mean, that's good. That's awesome. Good for you guys.
Well, so what I did is I filed custody. And so anyways, the mother decided to flee the state
bounces.
while in labor.
Yeah.
So she's literally in labor. She's trying to cross like the border. And this is all documented too. Like I'm not just like blowing smoke, right? So she literally,
She's like taking the kid or she pregnant.
yeah,
still?
no, she's in labor. Like she's literally pregnant
no
in labor,
way.
and her dad's like driving her, thinking that supposedly if I get into another state, I could like get the courts to battle against each. Anyways, so my daughter was born, and like I remember it was actually her best friend. It was the mother's best friend who called me, and she did this behind the mother's back and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know." And I haven't talked to this girl on average, but she's like, "This is what she's doing is wrong. I need to go tell the dad."
Yeah.
And she just said, "I just want to let you know your daughter's born. Da da da. This is what's going on." I remember I dropped down to my knees. And I just started bawling. Right.
Yeah.
I don't cry much. Right. And
Yeah.
And that my kids will make you cry. Right.
Right.
And so anyways, so let's kind of move ahead though. And so now I'm in the middle of this fight with all the courts and stuff like that. But I needed money. As a fireman, I didn't make much. I think it was like 80, 90 grand, right?
Yeah.
A year, especially I wasn't like a captain or anything. I was just a normal fireman on the floor and needed some money, man. And I just remember back in the Navy, I don't know if you guys did, I'm sure you guys did this when you were on deployment as well, but there were books that we just passed around. So on deployment, we'd have all these books and you just pass them around, right? Like,
Yeah.
hey, I read finished book, here you go. Of
course.
Well, what's a book that we all passed around was Rich Dad Poor Dad. So
Nice.
that book got passed around.
The gateway drug to real estate.
The gateway drug, right? And I read it, didn't take any action on it because I was too busy partying, right? So I was like, oh, that's a nice book. It's like a spike, and then it was like back to normal, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have a deep enough why yet to jump right in and make much money at the time. So anyway, so I remember back in the Navy, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I picked it up again, I read it again. Sorry, I didn't know you yet. So I'm reading this book. I was like, okay, so real estate is probably the key to help me get more money, right? But how do I get into real estate without no money? So obviously Google,
Yeah.
And so I also do a GoFundMe account. So I do this whole GoFundMe. I give my story. I'm having people donate to me so I could take that money and give to my attorney to fight.
For your daughter?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but anyways, and then so also I'm at the fire department. I'm doing a bunch of overtime and I'm swiping, right? I'm swiping on dating apps, right?
Yeah. That was after my time.
I'm like
yes.
so anyway, so this I always make it's always a joke. So I meet my beautiful wife. She matches. We match. It was destiny. And so before our first date, we had a great first date. And what she saw before, she actually read my GoFundMe on our first date. She didn't tell me yet at the time. And you want to tell me kind of what your thoughts were reading my story. I mean, she decided to go on a date with me after reading my story that I'm fighting some crazy.
True. So she's got some balls. Yeah.
Like, why would she go on a date with me, right? Like, I don't want to be involved with that.
Red flags.
No, I mean, kind of what I already said is, I saw somebody that cared and obviously loved his child, was going to be there and fight for his child.
True.
So it's like, okay, I gotta see what this guy's all about.
For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we started dating. And then then I pick up the Rich Dad Poor Dad again. We're a couple now. I think we moved in together. I'm not so sure yet, but I remember I was off one day, and I said, okay, so what's this thing about? So I pull up wholesaling. I'm like, wholesaling. Okay, what the heck's this? So I go down to YouTube University. Very short. I'm literally at the fire department. I'm watching all these YouTube videos, and I was like, I gotta learn this crap. Okay, like I don't know what got into me about it, but I was like, let me hire a coach.
Yeah.
And remember, I'm in debt at this time, and so I'm like, let me find a coach. I'm like looking up like who could teach wholesale. Well, who was big at the time back in 2020? It was Wholesaling Inc.
Yeah.
Right, Wholesaling Inc. popped up. This is when Tom Kroll ran it, Cody Hoffine. Man, such great guys. And I talked to the sales guy, and he was like, "It's gonna be about $5,000." And I was like, "Man, $5,000." And you guys who teach all these new people who probably have no money. I would actually like to. What advice do you give to people when they don't have? Because I'm going to tell you my experience as a new person.
Sure.
Negative in debt.
Yeah. Go spend more money, right?
So what do you tell them?
Man, I want to know more about their backstory and where they're at, so because I think you can't get yourself out of a position if you don't have any mindset shifts, right? Like we can be stuck in a swirling toilet and just continue to spiral down there and not really go anywhere. So you do need more information. And so my always thing is like, if they're completely broke, they need to start doing what you did at first too, right? Which is the free stuff, YouTube University. But a lot of times people come out of that with overwhelming information and not knowing which way to go.
Yep. Yeah.
And so they get paralysis analysis because they just have all these things. Should I fix and flip? Should I buy and hold? I don't have any money. Somebody told me I could creative. Somebody could do this. And so the advice I give them is to lock in with one thing, get good at that, figure out how to do it. If it's what I show and I show them how to do it, then they can go, if they find the deal, I'm like, you can raise the money. If you have a good deal, the money will come, but you need to understand the knowledge really is first. You have to know what a deal is, which is very overwhelming at first. You have to understand how to find the deal, and then you have to have a contingency plan on how you're going to either raise the capital for it if you don't have it. And so I just tell them exactly what I would do, and that's my advice. What was your experience?
Man, that's some good stuff, man. Yeah, really dig deep into somebody coming into you. Like I would really dig in deep into their why, right?
Exactly.
So at that time, my why was pretty dang big, right?
Yeah.
So a guy tells me $5,000. Just that was mine, crazy money at the time. Stuff that I didn't have, but so I had a credit card at the time. Yeah. Right. There's a lot of gurus. Some people say yes, some people don't. Right. It depends on like the situation, what their why is, right?
It also depends on the person, right?
Exactly.
I did the same thing. I laid the money down on a credit card, didn't have the finances to pay the credit card off. So I knew who I was, though. I knew I'd figure it out. Yeah, I put a $50,000 program. Yeah, for a 2-year $50,000.
Were you guys together?
Yeah, Alicia and I. Yeah, we had 2 kids, and we put it on 2 credit cards because one credit card I didn't have $50,000 credit limit.
And I've heard those stories too, where I'm back in the day before, when it was Robert Kiyosaki and he was charging all.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, it works.
It works though.
You got to get the information. You just don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
I hate to say that.
There's 2 types of people. There's the people like your guys' selves where when backed into a corner, you fight harder. And then there's those people that they get back into a corner and they just completely collapse.
Yeah, I've had somebody, and I'll try to pre-rec that before they sign up with anything. I don't want their money because I don't want to have to give it back. I just rather not take it. Yeah. But so I've had people be like, well, what if this is not for me? I said, if you already think this isn't for you, it's not for you. Don't even do it. Yeah. I said, I don't even want to work with you because you're going to try to find every problem and the reason it didn't work for you. Right. But if you're the type of person that's like, I'm going to make this happen, I'm going to make this work. But what's crazy is it's the same with a college degree. I mean, can you imagine going to college and be like, well, if I don't get a job, I'm going to sue the school, But nobody does that. Nobody's like blaming the school.
Thing, 100%.
And the information that you would share, I share, can change somebody's financial future for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And
this is why it's so important too to have the decision on who you marry is also one of the most important things that, and I know it's cliche to say that, but it really is. Mm-hmm. It really is. I know we talked before this podcast. It's like you could get together with somebody, girlfriend, wife, husband, and you guys could bicker about a relationship, right? That's the small stuff. It's like you want to find somebody who's going to support you.
For sure.
This is what the next point I'm about to go into in our story is who's going to push you. Because we all know that us men are, and obviously you need a driven woman behind you too.
Absolutely.
Because they know we're going to go do what we're going to do and need to do. Because we're hunters. So before I gave them my credit card, fire department, we have a work schedule of, we work like 2 days, you're off 3. It's a great schedule at the time. Anyways, so I was off during the middle of the week. She was a project manager at a company. And so I decided to go meet her on lunch break. So I wanted to kind of get her take on what I'm about to do. Hey, I know I'm going about to do this thing, and I know this is going to help me make more money, but it's going to cost me $5,000 to learn the process. And then what did you say?
Why haven't you done it yet?
Dang, that's
Right.
awesome.
So I swiped the credit card, and 2 months later, I got my first deal that gave me $20,000.
Dude, that's a
Yeah.
great return on $5,000 2 months later.
First deal in 2 months, right? Still to this day, probably the hardest deal I've ever done. We like double closed it. Like it was with an agent. Like it was.
You did everything you could.
And we all know agents are like super deal killers. Thank God that he was a cool
100.
agent. I know him to this day, actually. He's a good guy. And but most agents, oh man, we can go down that rabbit hole, right?
How do you feel after that? I mean, you're just like, it worked.
Right. So obviously, proof of concept. I put most of it to my attorney, my family law attorney at the time. I think I gave her like a $10,000 check. Used the rest of the money back into marketing. At the time, I was doing postcards. And I think a couple deals later, because remember, I was still at the fire department. A lot of us
Still
work
jobs.
9 to 5 job. And in the fire department, it's a hard job to get into. Qualifications, time, people you know. And so I was doing a lot of work at that time now. And I remember even on fires, I used to use the deal machine app. So then that was another part of it, right? I know I'm kind of throwing some bits at it, but we'd get back from a fire and I'd pin. So in this deal machine app, you could pin houses.
Yeah.
And so we'd be in the fire engine.
This one caught fire.
Yep.
Yeah, you are driving.
So I was driving for dollars at the time, and I'd be pinning houses as we're in the engine, or even I'd pin the house that we just left.
Smart. Yeah, that one's burnt. Gonna be definitely wholesale that one.
So it was great, So I was doing everything possible, but the funny thing is, I was so invested in it. And this is where a lot of people grit comes in, right? So I had a fire chief that would call me to his office and say, "Hey, you gotta stop working on your business."
Stop?
Yeah, stop.
Oh wow.
Right? Because what happens is I would have incoming calls. So I would send direct mail, and I would like run to the back, and I'd get out my script, and
Whoa, dude,
and
that's
so
wild.
I'd be answering. There was also, and so then I started cold calling it, and so what I did is, for some reason, my firehouse at the time did not have Wi-Fi, so I got my stuff together, and I got the firehouse Wi-Fi, and on like my down times, I would pull up my vehicle close to the fire department, to the house, and I would get my computer out, and I would go use Mojo Dialer at the time.
Yeah.
And I'd be in my vehicle with my radio, because in case we had a call, and I would be making cold calls.
Yeah.
Without obviously them knowing, right?
Yeah.
And so I'd get a bunch of leads and stuff, and I would set up appointments. So on my off days, and then another thing I did is I did a lot of my reading. I did a lot of reading on that time, but I would go to my room. I'd go to my room. I'd read a lot of books at the time, because I didn't have the family that I have now. So obviously I didn't have my daughter at the time. I didn't have my son or my wife. And so it was a good time to get my reading. So then you got guys saying like, "Hey, why don't you be involved with us? Why don't you be a part?"
True.
And so it's like you got a lot of that stuff as you're trying to build something, because I knew where I was going, but I had no idea that I was going to quit my job anytime soon. But obviously the story changes, right? So then I got another coach, my boy Zach Booth, fantastic individual. He taught how to do driving for dollars at scale. And so, because I remember I was mailing these lists, and they just weren't hitting like I want, because everybody else was it was just cheap stuff, right?
Sure.
Cheap stuff that you'd pull from like PropStream or something like that, and like everybody's hitting it. It's just generic,
Same list.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I wasn't hitting it, so I was like, I got to make my own list. And remember, I don't have much capital, so I knew driving for dollars was the key. He taught driving for dollars, so again, shout out to Zach Booth, an amazing individual. So he starts coaching me, and we were at Applebee's at one time. I was off, and I see him. I look at my phone. He's calling me, and I'm thinking how cool that Zach Booth, right? Your coaches are calling you, right?
Yeah, sweet.
And just like if you'd call one of your students, right?
Yeah.
Like, man, Austin's calling me, right?
Yeah.
And so I answered. I was like, "What's up, man?" And so we started talking, and I had a deal. I had a $55,000 deal at the time that was in escrow, and it was about to close.
55 in profit?
55
wholesale?
bangers,
Wow.
right? So imagine your mindset, like 55,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
Like
you guys got to
making-
rewind. He's where he's going from. Dropping a credit card, paying $5,000 that you didn't have, making 20, then now you're making 55.
Yeah, I think that was like my third or fourth deal.
Yeah.
So I've done a couple deals now in the fire department. I got this banger coming in from driving for dollars.
Yeah.
And and I still did not think I was going to quit. Zach, my coach, this is why we have coaches, to push you, and he said, "Quit your job. Go full time. You already made more than you make at the fire department."
Yeah, you probably made that. 55 was probably more than you're making a year.
Yeah, and
Yeah, after taxes.
I
for
was
sure.
like,
if anybody's in the Midwest or South, that's more than most firefighters are making right out of the gates right now. At the year.
And I think she's already quit her job now. And again, because the story goes, I met the woman. I mean, that's perfect. Thank God she was with me, because she quit her job to take care of our daughter. But anyway, so he tells me to quit my job, and I was like, I at the time did not think I was going to quit my job. Like that's a big question that I'm sure a lot of students ask too. Like
When
do I quit my job?
That's exactly right.
And
you can't answer that question for somebody though.
You can't.
Yeah, I can't. You know, he's giving you advice in that situation, and I tell him exactly what he told you, which is good. I think it's like when it starts costing you money to stay on the job.
Yeah, 100%. And so, and then I look at my wife, right? Like, and they're the ones who push you, man. You're like, I'm about to make this decision. Sometimes we're like, well, I'm just gonna do it, but then you got like, I don't know, man. And so she was like, do it. Don't be a little. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't be a little bitch.
I was sitting there thinking about him, like running the numbers with him, like, he's already look at what he's already done.
Yeah.
Kind of, I don't want to say half-ass work. It's not because it wasn't half-ass working, but trying to kind of be part-time wholesaler.
Yeah.
At the fire department. Now imagine what he could do
Full time.
And he's obviously a very dedicated person, so I knew he was not going to be that person
for sure.
Kind of still slack at it.
Well, that's huge. That's huge. I want to touch on that. I mean, you want to talk about what he skipped over it really quickly because he thinks it's like common thing to do. And for me and you, it is something that we would do. Yeah. It's just who you are. But like you're making truck calls. You're told you don't have Wi-Fi. Like all these things where you could have just had poopy pants and cried about it, which most people would do. And so, but that's the difference. Yeah. That is the ultimate difference in why you are successful today versus 100%. Somebody who is not. The other version of Aaron that didn't do any of that, we know wouldn't be successful today. And those are the people that don't make it. So the information
100%.
Combined with the action and the disciplines that he did are what has got you here today.
100%. So the day of closing, right? Escrow, the day of closing was a huge day for us. We've decided I'm going to go put my 2 weeks notice in to my fire chief. And so I'm sitting on the app bay, sitting next to the ambulance, and I got my bank account open on my phone. And I just remember just refreshing my bank account.
Ready for that wire to hit?
Yeah. Waiting for the wire to hit, right? Because I'm like, I'm not going to quit my job if this thing don't hit my bank account. You know
no doubt.
Because it ain't closed until it hits your bank account.
That's right.
To this day, we still say that,
Same.
right? And so I'm boom, boom, boom. I'm calling escrow. I'm like, hey, did you guys send it? Like,
yeah.
It's been like 10 minutes. Like, hey.
Yeah, hey, is everything okay?
And so anyways, it hits the bank account. Just did something on my mind. Walked to the chief's office and I said, hey, I'm going to, told him I'm going to put in my 2 weeks notice in. They kind of probably saw it was coming anyways because they already had to tell me now. I said, hey, the business is taking off because I have it in my bank account. To me, the business is taking off because it's in my bank account. And so I used my sick days I think came into the office. I came back into the fire department one last time, probably just dropped off my gear. I used all my sick days to take the rest of the day off. Immediately hit the ground running. You could actually go on my social media and you could see from year one, year two, I have like my journey on my social media, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4.
Yeah.
And then you could see like, we're in our dining room, we're making calls. And I remember she even asked like, what can I do to help? And so she hops in and so we start working together. And yeah, man, it's history after then. And so I said, all right, how can we scale this?
So you just working from the house?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
At the time, we worked from the house. We kept driving for dollars.
So how long from the time you signed up with a coach to quitting your job?
Yeah, probably like 6 months. Yeah, because
it was should be if you're doing it right. If you're making money, you're taking the action.
That's a good question. I don't really know, but I mean, I know it was under a
First year. Yeah. So you get custody of your daughter, right? You quit your job. I mean, you have all these great things happening. So what happens next? Where do we go from there?
Oh man, so we get custody. So that's where the story obviously is fantastic. I win custody, physical custody of my daughter. Because remember, again, we didn't talk too much about it. I'm not here to talk too much about it, but she did flee the state. She lived in Colorado for a little bit. I was able to get my daughter back to over here. I mean, and we're talking about some bad stuff at that time,
That's
right? The mom was trying to get her for adoption. Oh yeah, we found the list goes on, and it still continues to this day, unfortunately. But thank goodness throughout this time, CPS, cops called on you, all just stupid stuff that a non-custodial parent who might have some type of whatever going on. Anyways, and because of this business, I've been able to get good legal help. And again, now my daughter is able to still see her mother on her time. And we're able to obviously take care of her as well and put her in good schools and stuff like that.
Awesome.
But yeah, so now she lives with us full time. We move on. We have our own little one. We get married. I proposed to her. It was best decision I've ever made was to marry this girl up here. But we are on year 4.5. So we're year and a half, 4.5 years into wholesale real estate.
Yeah.
At this moment, we should probably do 3.5 if not more,
In gross revenue?
in assignment fees.
Nice.
Yeah,
At
and-
this point in 2024. Nice. That's good. You're half year mark. So as everybody that's watching this, this is July 2nd or 3rd or whatever
Yeah.
it is. I don't really know, but it's July, so it's the middle of the year.
Yeah.
And so you guys half year. So are you on tracking for 7 million? You think?
At the end of this year?
Yeah.
No, tracking. No. I wish,
Tracking
I
to
wish.
hit the 3 point.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
Trending
this year we're on track to hit 3.5, if not more, this year.
Gotcha.
Next year, obviously, is we really want to take off. But we could talk about
What's that per month? Like, what are you guys averaging right now per month in the year of 2024?
Yeah, so we just closed on a $700,000 a month. So again, it could be a lot more, right? Our ultimate goal is to do $1 million months.
You're not far off.
Yeah, not far.
What was your lowest month this year?
Is probably year. I think it was like 195,000.
So 195 for the month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that was.
But
in
your
the
best
beginning.
month's been 700.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
And then we're just trajectory. We got a lot in escrow right now.
Sure.
We're hiring people, right? But we're also doing it right. And so we talked about this earlier too. Is when you talk about wholesale real estate, and again, because remember we came off. I don't want people to get discouraged on all the hype they see on social media, because what happens is I could sit here as, let's say, one thing I always tell people is, you'll see somebody who says, "Hey, I made X amount of money at in the first year or 2 years," but they don't realize that this person has already had. And they're good people, and they probably did, and it's fantastic. But they don't understand that they've already had previous business experience.
Sure.
They know how to set up teams,
Yeah.
and they come in with capital, but again, it's not a lie or anything like that. But just don't beat yourself up, because in this last 4.5 years, we've learned those things. We've learned how to market. We learned how to recruit. We learned how to run the books. We learned how to hire, and run
You have
a
to learn
team.
that stuff though. In order to continue to get better, you have to learn those
And
things.
so, because we see ourselves as being the authority figure in our market, we definitely want to be an authority figure in our market. And we're on the road there. So
Good. Can you go back a little bit though and explain to maybe anybody that's ever watching this that what is wholesale? Right. There's many facets of real estate investing. People know some fix and flips. They know Joanna Gaines on TV. They know people that hold properties and hold rentals. Everybody's heard that one. Nobody probably knows nobody that's watching this that's not a real estate investor knows what a novation is or what wholesaling may be. So what is wholesaling? Can you explain it?
wholesale real estate is just an exit strategy in real estate. And what that is basically you market to a homeowner that might have, need some repairs. We talk about it. Personal or physical. So personal meaning that they could be behind on payments, they could be going through a divorce, they could not be behind on taxes, some type of distress. And physical just means that the property needs work, right? Okay. So because I'm telling you, nobody's gonna sell their house at a discount. You and I would never sell a house at a discount. We're gonna sell it full market,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
But there are individuals out there, a very small percentage out there, that need to sell their house at a discount. And what that is so after you market to these homeowners, you can say, hey, let me basically bring you a buyer. So you get them under a contract, you have a piece of paper, and let's say this property, you get under contract for $500,000. We're in California. Let's say you get under for $500,000.
I was going to say the same number out here. Yeah.
$500,000, right? And let's say all fixed up, this property is worth $800,000, right? You take that contract, you find a buyer who wants to buy that contract off you, okay? And then let's say you have a buyer who says, I'll pay $550,000 for that.
Yep.
You get a contract now with the buyer, so now you have two contracts. You got two pieces of paper that have two different prices on it. You basically take the difference, you turn it into escrow. The buyer now closes on that property because now they are the buyer of that contract and everything that says on that contract, and you basically just take that fee. What wholesaling is, it's a fee. It's not going to be on the HUD or anything like that. That buyer is paying you the difference, and again, it's a fee. So it's basically they're giving you the value that you deserve. So you went out, you found the deal, and they're giving you, and they believe that you're worth $50,000 because you brought me this deal. I hope that's a good way to explain it. I haven't heard
no, it is. So I mean, essentially, you get under contract for $500,000, and you sell the contract or the rights to the contract on another contract for $50,000. So you sell the property for $550,000, and so you make the spread, you make the difference in that. The other thing, though, that I will touch on about wholesale that I feel like a lot of the wholesale gurus don't talk about on social media is that the amount of when you start growing the business. Like at the beginning, you were doing a lot of hustling in order to get that first deal that made you the $20,000 and then the $55,000. So you're trading the time in order to do that. But what they don't touch on is I've had times, and we wholesale as well, that when my marketing budget keeps churning, and maybe the market shifts, and so you're spending as much as you're making, and so the margin that you make in the company may be a lot smaller. And it's also the thing that irritates me about retail realtors and on social media where they're like, we did 100 million this year. It's like, well, the brokerage did 100 million. What's the percentage that you actually as an agent brought home? And it could be like really, really, really small. Now on a wholesale, it's usually not really, really, really small. It's usually really good if you know how to run the business and like you guys have gotten to today.
Yeah.
So, no, I just wanted to explain to everybody what wholesaling was if they didn't know, and I think you did a great job.
That's funny with realtors. Yeah, they definitely talk about the value of the house is not like what, and that is the difference because there is two large communities. You got your realtors, you got your wholesalers. So yeah, when we talk about what numbers we've done, we're always talking about how much fees that we've accumulated that year.
Well, your fees are gross revenue. Their sale of a property, technically, I guess,
I'm always trying to like do the math.
Revenue, but it wouldn't be. Yeah, I mean, so understand these numbers. All I'm giving a caveat for anybody watching this, and you and I are on the same page on this, is just understand what kind of numbers these people are spitting out and what they mean. And that's really important. Sure. Like, because net profit is the only thing that feeds you at the end of the day. And how can you make that?
So now, okay, so obviously you're here too. I remember you were hitting me up. We were talking, we were shooting the crap, and you were asking me, because you were kind of thinking about what direction do you want to, shift your wholesale business to?
Coming out here was, it was something that I was on the fence about. And so I was like, shoot, I'm going to call a buddy of mine, Aaron here, and tell me what your market's like. I'm interested, not specifically your market, but you get California in general.
Well, you made that comment too, is, coming into like our market, like I would actually encourage you to go to any of these markets. And it's funny when you think about a market, to me, I always thought Southern California was its own market. Do you understand how many people are in Southern California and how many divisions there are? Yeah. So I was like, wait a minute, no, counties are the markets.
So this is funny. I want to touch on this. This is funny.
Yeah.
So the whole state, we did the other day, the whole state of Oklahoma, I think the population is like around 4 million. And so San Diego County alone is 3 point something. Yeah. So that's going back to, we can talk more about your story, which is what we want to dive into in your business, going nationwide wholesaling versus in your niche market. That is a good example of some of these people that they're starting their own backyard because they hire a coach, but they're in, nincompoop Kentucky, and they don't know anybody, or freaking Pennsylvania and some podunk town, and so they start in their own market. I still feel like that's a good place to start. I mean, just to get yourself acclimated, understand what you're doing. But in order to grow your business, certain times like us moving here, and then you doing the same thing with your business, you kind of got to realize where the money is and where the economies are.
Obviously, we could talk about our story too, but I definitely want to kind of get out there about strategies. I'm thinking strategies.
No, sure. Let's jump right into it.
I'm thinking strategies all day. I'm thinking of direction all day.
Let's hear what your strategies are today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to kind of put out there to your audience about nationwide. Okay.
He has experience in it, so you're more than welcome to share your experience on it. I've never done it.
I really want to help people understand the difference. It's this big shiny object right now is nationwide. So we did nationwide. So
nationwide wholesaling,
virtual wholesaling. Yes, you can make money. We did it for all of 2023. We did about 75 deals last year, made over 7 figures. So the revenue was there, the deals number was there, but the difference in going wider, thinking that, because there's this hype right now. A nationwide is the way to go. Your market's too competitive, et cetera, right? But the lack of control that you have on all these different states that you have, the spreads are a lot lower. You think that just because you got a bunch of contracts, this is something, if you follow me, that's something that you've seen in the past where I'm like, hey, contract, right? That was something that we always celebrate, contract. But talk about fallout rate. Talk about the spreads of those contracts.
Nobody's talking about that.
Nobody's talking about that. And so that's why I want to really be in these podcasts to just I'm not here to give the fluff. I'm here to give the real deal on what the wholesale business is actually, what direction you should probably go. And I think Robert Winsley actually gives fantastic advice. This is me personally. Fantastic advice when it comes to picking your market, where to dive into, and that is, he always talks about going to a market that's 500,000 population with a medium house price of like 300, 400,000, right? And why would I say that?
Because, for example, I'm just thinking about my old market in Oklahoma. The only area that has a median house range of 400,000 is the suburb of Edmond, Oklahoma, and maybe Norman, which is where I'm from originally.
Yeah.
And so that's a small town. It's not the county.
Yeah.
And so the population, I don't even know what it is, but just the whole state itself, though, and other subsidiaries aren't hitting that an average price market. So what happens is what you said off mic a minute ago is that your profit per deal could be $2,500, 5,000 or an average. We were making an average of 18,000, but that's pushing it hard. And that is us having business experience. That is us having all the tools in the toolbox, being a part of masterminds that help give us more skills. Right. And it was like you said, pulling teeth.
So nationwide is, can you do it? Can you make money? Absolutely. But are you being profitable? Is your headaches worth it? You know what I mean? Do you have control of your business? Can you scale your business? There are people out there that obviously, because one thing too is that you find out that dispo is more important than acquisitions. Acquisitions is easy, right? You just do PPC anywhere and you're getting all these great leads. You're locking them up. Now the real work starts, right? When you're in your own market that is 500,000 population. And again, when I say market, I mean like a county. So now because you need buyers. Don't mess around with this rural crap. You know what I mean? Okay, can you do it? Yes. I'm not saying you can't, but do you want to make money or do you not want to make money?
Yeah, no, true.
That's
how much you want to work to make the money.
Exactly.
Right, at the end of the day.
And so don't be scared to go into a quote unquote, as you would call a competitive market. Because I'm telling you, all markets are competitive. Business is competitive. Do you want to be an entrepreneur or not?
Exactly.
As an entrepreneur, everything's competitive. And so it's like, do you want to work or do you not want to work?
Right.
Because you're going to work being competitive against other people, maybe other competitors, or do you want to be competitive and work in a rural market and work your butt off to try to find a fairy tale buyer to buy that property, right?
Yes.
So it's like, it's a give or take. And I want bigger spreads. So I want to go back into another guy. I like to use names a lot. I like to give a lot of
credit to the people that have helped you, for sure.
And it's not even helped me, just podcasts. So Todd Toback talks a lot about this. He's here in San Diego.
Nice.
He's a good wholesaler, but he always talks about in his podcast, you need big spreads in this business to be profitable and to make actually good money, right?
I believe that.
And so January of this year, I watched a reel. I told you this earlier. I watched a reel and I saw that my LA market is larger. It would be like the third largest state if it was its own state. And so I said, right, and then immediately I was like, we need to go back in our market because we were already in our market. Remember our whole story? And then we were only for 2023. We went nationwide. We tried the whole model, didn't like it. Wasn't making much money. So, but our recruiting has gotten better. Our teams, our process has gotten better. Our dispo's gotten better. Our acquisitions gotten better. Our sales. So everything's like, it wasn't a wash, right? We really grew a lot.
Sure.
But now, so we decided to go fully back into our market to 3 counties here in Southern California. And now I have a fantastic team where they're going to the houses. Now we only focus on inbound leads. The 3 main marketing channels that we use is PPC, PPL, and direct mail. So that's a lot of inbound stuff, right?
Yep.
So
how many leads are you guys getting a week?
A week, I would have to look it up, but we're probably floating around like 195 leads a month. So do the math on that.
195 leads a month? Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's quite a bit. Yeah.
But again, they're not all like net leads, right? So those are probably gross leads calling in.
Sure.
And then so if you're talking about net leads, we're probably like at like 110, I think, like net leads.
1 out of 10?
So actual leads, somebody who says I'm looking to sell, right?
Yeah.
So
1 out of 10 is pretty good, though. I mean, you pick up the phone 10 times to get a deal versus you had a team of cold callers. You pick up the phone and call 100.
Yeah.
For one.
Where are you guys taking your wholesale business now?
The PPL. I mean, PPL and direct mail.
Let's talk.
Because I've only done outbound. So we only had the cold callers and the texters like you guys in the past, just because I thought like I could in my aggressive mindset, which is probably what you had to in the beginning, is like, okay, so I can be proactive and attack versus, draw people in that we want to do business with. But overall, over the course of 3 years, it's proven that, having a more in tune conversation with somebody that really wants to sell versus give me your best price makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And text was great for a while. Like we did have good luck with text like in 2021 and stuff, but things have changed. Texting laws, phone call laws. And I'm sure anybody that ever watches this, like, you're the assholes that are texting and calling. We're not the only ones. They're not the only ones. But yeah, I think you're finding the right market.
It's funny. We did a lot of cold calling too. So when it came to cold calling, we've done it all. And what I mean by that is I actually filled my office with American cold callers at the time. And again, this is 2022. So literally we would hire people to cold call in my office. So I had like 5 cold callers at one point, Americans. And we watched that. Then we went to hiring all VAs. I had 20 VAs that I personally hired and trained, all cold calling. Again, 2022. Then I watched that. Then I hired a company to do, I think I hired like 7 or 8 cold callers, them to run it. And each one had its own issues and stuff like that. And I thought that was the way to, I should have gotten into inbound marketing way faster, way sooner, right? But this is where coaches and mentors help out. Unfortunately, I think the one I had was at the time was telling me to do that, right? So we were doing cold call and text at the time. Is it cheaper? Yes. But get into inbound, and because of the PPLs that's out there, so we personally use property leads. I hate to say it because I don't want anybody else to use them, but but I also have tried them all. I've done probably 5 different PPL companies, and they're all coming up. They're all spouting up. I've tried 5 of them, and I put a lot of revenue in all of them. And the best ones that have given us our best return has been property leads. I don't know what it is, but they're crushing it. Who do you use right now?
We just started. She could tell you. Lead Solo.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've done both those too. Yeah. They're still going to give you leads. They're still going to give you leads but I'm just saying like the ones that we've actually had good returns on have definitely been property leads. So check them out. I mean, again, they're not cheap. You know what I mean? I
want to touch on something right now that we're talking about though, which is huge. And this is another reason. This is like a high level cap though, is like the reason one thing that was cool about getting into real estate investing is like, it's not like cutthroat. Like we can do business together. You just said this market's massive, man. You can make money and do deals. I can make money and do deals. And a lot of other businesses aren't like that. So coming from the building community, coming from other businesses, it's not like that. It's like poker. And it doesn't have to be that way. Of course, are there things that you may do that you don't disclose? Are there things like that? But honestly, it's just how good you get at it that makes you better, right? It's how it makes 100%. You get more leads. But I like being able to work with people. And then it also even takes place when the wholesaler gets a deal. The wholesaler gives it to the flipper. The flipper sells the property with an agent. And so everybody make money in that. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, dude, real estate investing, going back to you reading the books, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and me too, getting into it. And I'm building houses already. And I'm like, dude, I got to get out of this. I'm killing it and making money, but I'm killing myself at the same time. And I'm like, I got to get out of this. So I read the book and I'm like, this is awesome. And you could literally work together and do deals together. I may have, man, I got a lead up in Temecula. I don't know what to do with it. Could we work on it together? You're like, I got a buyer for that. It's just awesome how we can collaborate in this type of community.
So if you want to start doing deals out here in California, I'll give you our attorney's information. They are Cutthroat. So because you heard me with my law attorney, I have a very strict type of attorney because we have 3 types of attorneys. I have a family law attorney, we have a real estate attorney, and we have an employer law attorney.
Love it.
And the thing that I look for is they have to be aggressive. They have to be willing to chew my ass out.
Good.
Right? I want somebody who's going to yell at me, right?
Yeah.
Because if they're going to yell at me, they're going to yell at the other person. You know what I mean?
It's a good way to vet your
There's too many soft attorneys out there. And so my real estate attorney has not saved us, made us hundreds of thousands of dollars because when I first got him, and again, this was a referral from a little thing I went to. And so they've been with us now for 2 years. And what I did is I gave them 5 deals and immediately they call them love letters and they sent a nice little love letter. Didn't even file a list pendants yet. They just said, hey, we're going to basically mess your life up. And then the seller just come back, boom, 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 boom. And then guess we're able to close on them, right?
Wow.
So having a good attorney is huge in this game. And that goes back into nationwide. It's like, yes, can you have an attorney? Can you have a team, escrow company?
You have to build such a network in every state to make that happen?
Yeah. You got to know the laws and everything like that. So by doubling down and going deeper into your own market, you could build a team. We talk about that, not just your team in-house, but your team outside. Good mobile notaries, good attorneys, good escrow officer, good title companies, good contractors, right? Good people we have people that are I feel like just run around outside of our team getting deals done.
Nice.
And that's something we do, I feel like separates us apart against our competition is one, we care about our sellers. We have a good office culture. We were big on core values and mission. Our mission statement is constantly chanted to the ceiling at our office. Again, we look at our sellers, as human beings. We have a full-on team that solves problems like she just said. We could clear title. We create that certainty in our sellers. We're communication and we have that sense of urgency, right? We heard
that's
at our
huge.
So we do a team dinner every single month at the end of the month, and we had our escrow officer actually wanted to take our whole team out. Like, okay. And so they took our whole team out and it was fantastic. And what they said that separated us from all the other people that they work with is that we're so fast to respond because we give a crap. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people will turn their paperwork in and they don't hear from them again. So, but again, it creates that team. Like I don't do it. I never talk to us.
It's your team.
I never talk. It's my TC or my wife. So it's either my wife or my TC that's talking to them. It's a conveyor belt. You got to create that conveyor belt. You ever read that book, E-Myth?
No, I haven't.
It's a great book where they basically talk about how to keep your simple scales, fancy fails, right? So you got to keep everything simple. And it actually takes more work to make things simple than it is.
It does, because we always want to overcomplicate it. I do.
Yeah.
I mean, naturally, right?
You gotta simplify it. So once you create a process, okay, you look at it, or you got things going on in your business and you say, okay, how can I simplify this even more? And people don't think about that. So you got to constantly simplify business. And so that's what we have. We have a conveyor belt, a mock McDonald's kind of method that we always try to do. And then once you do it, you got to write it down. If it's not written down, it doesn't exist, right?
True.
So always write down your stuff, even if so I'm always working on that. Yeah, I feel like I'm just talking, but
Very good.
which again, it comes back to, if you have a good attorney, you're not going to get in as many lawsuits as you think. And if you got your good paperwork, you're not going to get in too many lawsuits. But here's the thing. At the name of the game, you will get in lawsuits. It happens. So make sure to have a good attorney. If you can't find one, start asking referrals in your area. So another thing we talked about too, and I know something that you teach, is buying real estate.
Yeah.
We have not gone down that road yet. Again, being 4.5 years in, we wanted to make sure our active income was solid. We wanted to really focus on that business aspect. I know I've been hearing a lot of people kind of voice their opinions about the whole the rental stuff. When you get to a certain stage, yes, you can start making some money off your rentals. But before then, it's not like you buy a couple of rentals. Again, I'm only speaking off of ignorance on what I hear. But you buy a couple of rentals and, it's not going to make you rich, right? We really wanted to be millionaires through our business first before we started really building our wealth, because now we want to offset those taxes by putting them in rentals.
100% should.
My biggest fear with rentals, right, is bad tenants. People, can I afford them? So I have every question, every fear that anybody else has, even with the active income that I have. So we own our own place, don't have any rentals. We're using real estate as a vehicle to drive revenue.
Yeah.
And now we want to, my biggest thing too is, where do I buy rentals, right? Do I go over and buy the cheap houses that gives me a little bit of cash flow?
Sure.
That doesn't appreciate? Do I go to my own backyard here in California where I focus on the appreciation so that when I get 65, 70 years old, I can liquidate them or give them to my kids?
Make a bigger return. Right.
What is your goal when you do rentals?
Good question. So I kind of did things backwards, right? Most people start as a wholesaler. I kind of did wholesaling. I learned about wholesaling. It was like one of the last things I learned about.
Right.
So as I'm not going to go through my whole story, but as a builder, then a real estate investor, I took down a few properties and would flip them every once in a while as a builder, just because I had friends in real estate, and what they were doing to me, which I didn't know at the time, was wholesaling them to me. And so I was like, this is a pretty good deal. And I had the crews, and we'd rotate them out, or I'd just make it a rental. But at the same caveat, $700 to $1,000 a month in rent, when they'd go vacant, I would just be like, I don't care about that. Like, it would annoy me. To the point, because I think I only got up to like 9 properties back before I became a full-time real estate investor and I was a builder. And I say that because I was ignorant by being arrogant, because I was doing large numbers in new construction. I mean, I'm doing draws for clients that are 6 figures weekly. Yeah. So per client, so we're doing big numbers in that business. So to worry about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Smith Street in the South Side that's not paying, I don't want to worry about the toilets and the termites when I'm doing that. So I kind of bring that back to something for you as well. You don't want to get into a situation where you're doing $55,000, $75,000, a 6-figure wholesale transaction, but you're also spending so much time over here on Mrs. Smith's property and maintenance and all the crap on that side that's maybe making you $300 a month. You know what I'm saying? So because it will ultimately pull you away from fires or scaling or your active business.
Yep.
I say that just thinking off the cuff, really.
Yeah.
And so, we started scaling. I think owning property, though, ultimately is the key to growing wealth. The other side of the situation could be like wholesaling. And how many people do you guys have in your company now?
Generically, if I explain my team, so I wouldn't know the number off the top of my head, honestly, but I have 4 acquisition people, 2 dispositions, a TC, 2 virtual, and me and my wife.
Okay, so like 7 in office.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's awesome. Active income is super important. Definitely. That's one thing I didn't focus on, because you got to focus on one or the other. But holding assets over the long period of time and having more tools in your tool belt to be able to do things with these potential sellers. So let's say you guys do 10 deals a month, which is making up a number, but let's say you did 10 deals a month. You could probably easily double that with new skill sets of being able to take down a flip or turn them into a rental or doing seller finance transactions. So that opens up the door to even going deeper into your market by adding more tools to the toolbox. 100%. Does that make sense? And so we're able to solve problems at a different level when I have somebody that comes across the The ones you said where people get into them and they can't do anything about them, well, could they seller finance those deals? And what does that look like? And then what do you do with it if you can seller finance it, and understanding that side? So really, ultimately, real estate investing, buying one rental, and now, we have well over 50 plus units, and then we have over 65 plus units, but buying those and selling off some, keeping some, because it's always moving back and forth. We get a vacancy. Should we put somebody in it or should we sell it? What you have to learn through that process is about financing. So you have to understand a lot about banking. And so when you start diving down that rabbit hole, that's where the education comes in for the future. Because if I can do 5 deals, 10 deals, and I understand how financing works, I understand how debt works, I understand how the money works on the other side, these are the same kind of tools that you can implement to take down a $20 million complex, a multi-family or a storage unit, or to buy multiple properties at one time. We've closed on seller finance transactions with over 15 units in one strike. And that's because I knew how to talk the lingo. I knew how to structure the financing. I knew how to underwrite the deal because I had a strategy, not only for me to take it down now, but what does it look like in 5 years, 10 years, and how can I work that angle? So I think that's the benefit of it at the beginning. At the beginning, you're right, like $200 a month in a rental house for somebody brand new versus turning around and flipping that property for maybe 25, 30,000 or wholesaling the property maybe for 15. And I'm talking like Oklahoma numbers here, right? It's way better for you to just to wholesale the property or fix and flip the property because that 15 to 25 grand will change your life more than that $200 a month with the potential vacancy and a water heater.
Yeah.
So that's a long-winded answer.
I would like to know a little bit more of the ABCs though. So like, let's say I got a deal on my hands, right? Let's say it's 70 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
Where do I go and how much do you think it's going to cost me to bring down that property? And then after that, what should I do? Do I give it right to, do I fix it up? Do I burr it out? I mean, like, what does that look like? I mean, what bank do I use? Do I use hard money? Like, what does that look like? ABCs.
Yeah. It's going to depend on the individual person. So when I'm coaching people, it's the same situation. What kind of financing can they get? I have some people come to me that have a couple $100,000, but are still scared to get into real estate.
Right.
Kind of like what you just said. You have a successful business. You guys probably do well. So they're still scared because they just don't know what they don't know.
Exactly.
And I have other people that are scraping by and don't have the ability, to do that. So it's going to depend on the deal. So I help analyze and evaluate that deal. It's going to depend on the deal. And then it's going to depend on what kind of debt we can get on the deal. So yeah, hard money is a good tool for some, but if they don't have the ability to, because hard money is expensive. Hard money is really expensive. So yeah, hard money is expensive, but banking money takes a long time. So you, the wholesaler, if you're trying to sell me a property and I have, small town lending and it's the best one that's going to give me the biggest, highest rate and I have to put down minimal money to get the deal, you're not going to be happy with me if I have to close it in 30 to 45 days because of the team how I'm buying it, unless I'm the only buyer. Otherwise, you're going to sell it to somebody else that has hard money because they're going to close it in 2 weeks or less.
So hard money is what's going to give it to that fast close.
So hard money gives you the fast close, right? Or private money. Private money is even faster than that. So if you had a stockpile of cash that you had raised and you had a couple million and you could go take down these properties cash and turn around and flip them, then you could move even faster, Or if you're direct to seller, like if I'm direct to seller and you can negotiate a seller financing term where they carry the loans and maybe they have the property paid off and then what I'll do is I'll take title to it. I'll take the property down creatively. We'll negotiate terms, and then I'll turn around if they want out of it still, and I'll just fix the property up and I'll burr them out.
Let's talk about that. Again, I don't mean to put you on the spot or anything.
You're good. No, ask all the questions.
Let's do a role play. How do you pitch your seller finance?
So my seller finance, basically, I tell them, look, I can't give you what you're asking for the property. I can't give it to you as far as like a wholesale. You know what I'm saying? But I could give it to you on terms. And they're like, well, tell me about terms. And I also gauge the conversation in advance, right? Because somebody that's maybe 90 years old doesn't want a 30-year loan. They don't want. And I think that's one thing that people talk about with seller finance. Like every deal could be a seller finance deal. No, that's not true at all.
Yeah.
It's not true at all. There's a lot of times where they need the cash or they need something else.
Yeah.
But there are many times where the seller finance deals that have worked best for me are from another investor that he knows that he can get a little bit more for the properties because he'll finance it over a period of time. And then we can talk business. So it's like, yeah, look, I can give you more for the properties if you're going to carry the loan for the next 10 years, and then we'll put them on a balloon, and then I'll refi you off because they'll be worth $500,000 more.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be able to do this, or $1 million more after I fix them. He's like, cool. And then we have a deal. That's pretty easy talk. The other ones I've had where it is an older person or a person that wants to get out of rental properties that they have that's giving them a headache and it's a nightmare. And that situation, they're more worried about people that aren't 90 years old and, but they're worried about the capital gains. So if they sell all the properties, they immediately have a tax problem. And so if they sold let's say it's $1 million transaction and it's a couple houses, they're going to have all of that money that year, and then they're going to have a big tax burden. So their profit that they've been banking on, their retirement, all of this gets chopped right in half. And so the way I sell them on that and explain it to them really is by, look, you're going to be able to keep more of your money if we stretch this out over a period of time, and you're able to mitigate those taxes on however you guys choose to mitigate those taxes. And so I'll sometimes stage those on like balloons. So let's say it was 5 properties. I'll do like, well, I'll close one of these properties every year for the next 5 years. If you give me 30 years on the loan, and I'll give you the price you want on equal payments for those 30 years. Yeah. So it's just everything. There's so many levers to pull in creative finance.
And so this is what I want to point out too. And there's 2 things. One, I have seen more investors be willing to do that because they understand it pretty well.
Well, the commercial world, that's what you do. Like that, people don't realize that when you're selling massive properties, it's not like a realtor brokered the deal when it's over. A lot of times there's seller carrybacks. Right. We're talking multi-million-dollar deals, 20, 30, $100 million deals. There's all sorts of creative strategies to get those deals closed. There's loans that people can assume on like $100 million deals. There's a lot of things that when you dive into commercial, you'll understand that it's way more common to have seller financing type transactions.
Definitely good to sit here with you.
You too, man. Tell them where they can find you.
Man, you can find me on Instagram when I'm on.
When he's on.
I think it's just Aaron Gaunt and Aaron L. Gaunt.
He doesn't even know his own handle.
I don't.